the jump, 21 shots in a row, and then he did this on our practice hoop. The jump starts now.
Welcome to The Jump, presented by Dell.
Welcome indeed to The Jump. I am Rachel Nichols alongside 8-time All-Star. The man still has the hops.
Y'all need to take
Vince
that down.
Carter.
I don't know how to act.
No, we do not. And fellow Tar Heel and 2004 NBA champ Rasheed Wallace. Can you still get up like that? Do you still have those hops, Sheed?
Yes. Just more fingertip now. More fingertip.
And the host of the Low Post podcast, Zach Lowe. I know your dunking days are just all in the future, Zach. You just haven't even gotten a chance yet to show people what you have in that bag.
You throw me a Nerf hoop on a door, I'm doing windmill jams, Dominique Wilkins, bring it back up between the legs, the whole thing.
We might need to see that later in the show. We are also going to get into Vince and Sheed's college days. First, though, one of the coolest things about the past week of playoff games has been the return of real, honest-to-goodness crowds in the stands. It has meant a tremendous amount to the players who've said the juice in some of these buildings has been off the charts. And it's meant a tremendous amount to so many fans themselves who are finally getting to feel normal again, to have a place to go, to yell and scream and just be with other people. And yet, despite how special it all feels, despite how freshly aware we all are now of how quickly the whole thing can get taken away, the return of full stands has also meant the return of what had been a disturbing trend pre-COVID. Fans verbally and even physically assaulting the players they're supposedly there to watch. Back in 2019, the season before the whole world fell apart, The Athletic reported that the NBA had banned 5 times as many fans from arenas as it had the season before. And now that the world is slowly putting itself back together, here we are again. There were 3 NBA games last night, and 2 of them had fan incidents in New York. Not only did the crowd shower Trae Young with expletives from the moment he stepped on the court for warm-ups, these leaflets were also handed out around the building instructing fans to make fun of Young's hair. Then in the fourth quarter, a fan actually spits on Young, which Young reacted to later on Twitter, calling the incident crazy. Meanwhile, over in Philadelphia, you had Russell Westbrook leaving the court due to an injury. And instead of, God forbid, showing any compassion, a man in the crowd dumped a box of popcorn on his head. Westbrook had to be restrained from going after him by numerous security and team personnel types. And while the fan was identified and ejected from the game, Russ was adamant afterward that more needed to be done.
Being honest, man, I'm not a fan, especially for me. Just the amount of disrespect, the amount of just fans just doing whatever they want to do. It's not a problem. But there's certain things that cross the line. And any other setting, I know for a fact that fans, they want to come up. A guy went on the street and pour popcorn on my head. Because you know what happened. A guy want to come up to me, talking about my kids, family on the street, because the response will be different. So to get food on top of me, it's just been, to me, it happens to me a lot of times. And obviously I've learned to kind of look the other way, but to a certain extent you can't just keep looking the other way. There has to be some penalties or something to put in place where fans can't just come to the games and do and say as they please.
Strong stuff there. And yes, Westbrook has indeed, in particular, been a repeated target of bad behavior. 4 years ago, also in Philadelphia, a fan sitting courtside was ejected for directing a stream of profane words and gestures at Russ. 3 years ago, Russ got into it with a Jazz fan, slapping away the phone. The fan thrust in Westbrook's face. And 2 years ago, another Utah fan was tossed for getting into a verbal altercation with Westbrook while he was sitting on the Thunder bench. Still, this is hardly just about Russ. We have heard from dozens of players that they have faced a sharp uptick in fans believing that buying a ticket gives them the right to do and say anything toward the players they are supposedly there to see. The problem has gotten bad enough that this morning the NBA released a statement noting how respect for the game is, quote, critical, and said that an enhanced fan code of conduct will be vigorously enforced in order to ensure a safe and respectful environment for all involved. We will find out what vigorously enforced actually means in the weeks ahead, although we're starting to get a hint The Knicks announced this afternoon that the fan who spit on Trey has been, quote, indefinitely banned from Madison Square Garden. And the Sixers have said the same about the fan who dumped the popcorn on Russ being banned indefinitely from their arena. Will the threat of that be enough to make other fans behave better? Personally, I had hoped that after a year without getting to go to sporting events, fans would just, appreciate how fortunate we all are to be back and have such an essential part returned to the game we love. And surely a big chunk of them are. But clearly, there do need to be harsh penalties toward the fans who keep crossing the line, because this has gone way beyond classless. It has gotten nasty and dangerous, and players should not have to put up with it anymore. And look, guys, it's also not new. Rashid, I know you had plenty of fan interactions in your days, and some of them were fun, right? Some of them you get into a fan, it's kind of fun, but I'm sure some crossed the line. And what was your reaction to seeing these interactions last night?
Well, when I was playing, it was more, fans just talking junk, which was fine with me. Long as you were talking about me, keep it with me. Don't talk about, at the time I was married, don't talk about my wife, my kids, my mom, nothing personal like that. I could do you talking junk about me. But I mean, for these fans who are disrespecting these players, the guy who disrespected Russ pouring popcorn, the other gentleman spitting on Trey, what if we come to y'all jobs? What if we come to y'all jobs and heckle y'all? What if we come to y'all and spit on y'all, pour drinks on y'all as y'all going back and forth to the fax machine or to the bathroom? Y'all wouldn't like that then. This is our job. So we understand that each fan is very passionate about their team. But you gotta don't cross the line, keep it, as they say, a good, safe family environment. Because what if Trey Young would have went on into the stands, hauled off, and socked the guy in the face? Now Trey Young's the bad guy. He's getting sued, blah blah blah. So yeah, they definitely need to get a grip on that now.
I agree with you, She. I agree with what Russ said, because if that gentleman who spit on Trey or poured the popcorn on Russ was outside of that arena, it's a different result.
We know how that would
and we know how that ends up. And here's my thing. With the league and the people who are implementing these rules, put yourself in that position. Let's say if that popcorn was poured on you, or courtside Karen, or you're spit on, how would you react? How would you react if that happened to you? And then you think about this rule and say, okay, this rule is good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zach, I wanted to know from a league perspective, we saw what the Knicks did, we saw what the Sixers did. What more do you think the league can do than just say, hey, if you get into it with a player in an unsafe way, not just this game you're getting thrown out, but you will never, ever be able to come back. Is there more you think the league can do, or that's really the answer?
Yeah, I don't know what else really they can do. I mean, never ever is a pretty harsh standard, and I think that you have to do something pretty bad to get never ever. But look, this isn't really that hard. You would think that a year of living in a plague would make people a little more empathetic and nicer and more sympathetic to each other and not meaner and nastier in real life on social media and all that. But this isn't that hard. We all know where the line is. You all know where the line is in your day-to-day interactions. What's funny, what's clever, and what's verbally over the line. And what's definitely over the line is anything that you have that can move from you to the court or to a player, whether it's an object or saliva or whatever. Yeah, just don't do that. That's over it's really not that hard. Just don't do that.
Well, Vince, you had an object thrown at you once, right?
I did in the Olympics where we were in Australia and walking down the court, and all of a sudden you hear clink, 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 a coin was thrown at me. So, my one thing is that the fan does this and they feel like there's no consequence. There should be a consequence. He was able to walk out on his own accord.
Yeah.
All right, you're out of here, go. But yet you're holding Russell Westbrook back. Trey Young, if he runs in there, like Sheed said, you're holding them back, but he was able to walk out. He wasn't arrested. He wasn't carried out. He should have been removed with force. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. And you set an example, because once you set an example, everybody else is like, I don't know if I want that to be me.
I think never ever is the example. I know right now they're just saying indefinitely, and that leaves room for in a year or 2 years or whenever it is to let that person back in. I think never ever is okay, because I think that is what would tell fans, don't do this, don't have this be you. I remember when LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, as members of the Heat, came back to Cleveland for the first time after LeBron left the Cavaliers the first time. They had batteries thrown at them. I mean, that is just not acceptable, this kind of stuff. And I do think that there has been a rise since sort of social media and Twitter culture, where, to Russ's point, and Vince, to your point, you would not say these things to people on the street if you saw them in person, and yet people feel perfectly comfortable tweeting threats at players.
And you don't know if their boys are sitting right there in the building. You think this is cool, ha, ha, ha. You turn around and, you get thrown on the court all right by the boys.
And Sheed, you have seen in person what happens when it becomes too much. Obviously, in a game against you guys was the game that Ron Artest went into the stands. And I was in the building that night. And I feel for those guys, for Steven Jackson, because they were just trying to protect themselves from stuff being hurled at them. And once things start to get out of hand, then they get even more out of hand. And then it becomes unacceptable for the entire NBA. So it is a really, really, really there is a line cannot be crossed anymore. Let's talk about basketball. I'm so angry about all of this. Much more cheerfully, some great hoop at Madison Square Garden last night. The Knicks were on the ropes at halftime, down 13, but Tibbs started Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson in the second half and did not look back. Rose ended up with 26 points in 39 minutes. The Knicks allowed a raucous MSG crowd to celebrate that series-tying win. Rose was appreciative of the moment post-game.
I've been dreaming about this moment for a long time. In the past, people said I couldn't play the minutes. They was worried about it, but I knew all along how much hard work I put into it. Like I said, in practice, I'll be on my feet for 2 hours. So you tell me I can't play like 30 minutes in a game with the way that I changed, the way that I played. So I'm happy with my endurance. I'm happy that we got the win tonight too. Took a lot out of it.
So awesome to see. And Vince, you are someone who aged very well in this league.
Yes.
Can Rose maintain a near 40-minute workload as the series continues?
Well, the good thing about it for D Rose in the playoffs is that you get time in between.
Yeah.
And he's going to take care of his body. He's proven that, and he's learned ways to take care of himself. And they need him to be in the starting lineup to get a fast start, particularly now going on the road. Both teams are evenly matched, and you can see implementing him into the second half starting unit open the game up for Julius Randle.
Yep.
Julius Randle was now able to get his game going, knock down big threes, make plays, and they win the game when they were down 15. So he can rest later, and I think he understands that.
My inclination, even though what Vince said about 2 days off between games, always a day off between games in the playoffs, my first inclination was, I don't believe that all these sports scientists and all these people have been wrong about Derrick Rose and the danger of him playing so many minutes. But to hear Derrick speak on it like that after the game and say, hey, I know my endurance, I know my body, it gives me some confidence that maybe he's got more of these games in him than we think. I mean, it's his body. I think I should trust him more than anyone else. That said, it's going to be interesting to monitor. And if they do start him over Elfrid Payton, the very important question for the Knicks is, what happens when Derrick Rose is on the bench, assuming Payton's out of the rotation? Can Quickly and Burks and maybe a more dose of Julius Randle in those minutes, is that enough offensive creativity? Last night it was, and I think that was the right move for Tibbs.
And I definitely have to cheer for my man D Rose. He's an NBA veteran.
Yeah.
I'm cheering for all veterans. And again, to piggyback off of what Vince said, he knows how to take care of his body. He hasn't been around this long, being foolish and not doing the things that he's supposed to do to take care of his money maker, which is his body. So for sure, tip my hat to D Rose in the game you had last night, good brother. It definitely uplifted the team, and for the good Knicks fans,
yes.
they were crazy. It was so loud in there, and I see, Spike was over on the sideline dancing and everything. So it was good to see basketball back to basketball again, and everyone into it and cheering for those guys. So definitely, they deserve that win last night, and it's going to be a good series. As you mentioned, it's 1-1 now, and heading back down there to Atlanta. So we'll see how the Hawks will bounce back.
I mean, there was a point in the coronavirus pandemic where we didn't know when or how we would ever get that slice of normalcy back. And to see Madison Square Garden cooking just felt like everything had come home. The thing about Derrick Rose to remember, guys, I know he's had all these injuries over the years. He's only 32 years old. Sheed, as you were aging in this game, I asked Vince earlier, but for you, was there anything that you had to reduce in the couple years before you retired and you had to change the way that you played?
It's definitely first and foremost is your diet. As you get older, when you're younger and you're playing all those minutes, you can eat and drink whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to run it off in practice.
Yeah.
But as you get older and become that veteran, you change your diet up and you start to do a whole lot more things with your body, more stretching and taking care of it more massages, because, again, that's your money maker. So long as you do that stretch and take care of your body, you're good. And God forbid, avoid any injuries.
That is absolutely the case.
Yep.
We're going to get to that whole Chiefs ensemble that you've got on a little bit later in the show.